Well, good morning and welcome to the show. Jeff Beals here at your service from NAI NP Dodge Commercial Real Estate Company. We're also brought to you by D&M Roofing, dandmroofing.com, Omaha's premier residential and commercial roofing contractor. Glad you have joined us today. And without any further ado, it's time to bring on my co-host, a man who is reveling in this midwinter glory, Trenton Magid.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Jeff.
Well, I tell you what, last week we talked about that historic week of economic development announcements in Omaha. This week, we're going to dig deeper into that a little bit later. We're going to bring onto the show Stephen Osberg from the Greater Omaha Chamber. He's transportation expert with the Chamber, going to be talking about some of those streetcar issues and other things. Whew, but we have a lot of news to get to before we get that. So shall we get into it?
Absolutely.
It's called the News of the Week, and it's brought to you by our good friends at Eagle Mortgage. You hear Holly Schneiderwin on the radio sometimes on KFAB talking about Eagle Mortgage. We know them. We're friends with the company and truly believe in them. They help you with your mortgage, whether it's a sort of thing where you need one to buy a new house or if you're going to refi. Yeah, there's still some people out there who haven't refinanced. But let's talk a little bit about home buyers, people who are going to buy a new house. It is now February, which means that the activity level for houses is about ready to skyrocket. Usually mid to late February, it really, really heats up.
I see the signs going up.
Goodness. I mean, it's kind of like spring is like new birth renewal.
Yeah.
People buy houses in the spring like crazy. So get ready. Go to Eagle Mortgage now if you're thinking about doing it. Talk to them about a pre-approval letter so that you can have that all squared away and be prepared for the big rush. Because my guess, Trenton, this year is going to be a lot like last year, where it's going to be competitive getting the house you want.
Think of it as like a vaccine that you can take to the showing, and you're ready. People know that you're qualified, and you can help them.
Now, if Eagle Mortgage comes up with a mortgage booster vaccine, I'll be even more impressive. So let's get into that news. Trenton, the big week. The big news of the week was the Omaha City Council approving 2 leases for the Omaha Public Library to occupy space in 2 different places. This is very necessary in order to pave the way for a W. Dale Clark demolition later this year, which of course paves the way for the skyscraper. But talk to us a little bit about those leases, especially since you're involved in one.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, the one I wasn't involved with is the new branch that's going to be at 1401 Jones Street. White Lotus Development, a very qualified developer, is going to work with the city and redevelop a building that's 30,000 feet just south of the current site. And that's pretty exciting. Noddle Companies is going to talk to vendors and oversee the process of getting bids, bringing them back to the city on both these projects. And that is a great project. What I was involved with, and we're excited to welcome the library administrative, the archives, the distribution functions. I think there's some public interface to 90,000 square foot former Shopco space at 84th and Frederick, just south of Center, just north of the interstate. And it's a great space, and they'll go in there and do their own improvements, and we're excited. But it's great for the city of Omaha. And then over the next 5 years, they're analyzing, from my understanding, is a new main library that will likely be at 72nd and Dodge, but somewhere between 72nd and 90th and Dodge, and it'll be state of the art. And Omaha should be very proud of that. And lots of frosting on the cake is this the old site, which should be a 45 or 50 story Mutual of Omaha headquarters.
Very exciting stuff. And anytime you have a major change like this, sometimes you'll have a backlash from certain parts of the population. People get a little bit nervous. They worry that something is going on behind the scenes. And I just want to go out and say that from everything I have read, from every leader I have talked to, from everything I know about how you develop things in Omaha, this is a win-win-win and some more wins. This branch library office at 1401 Jones Street is going to be very nice. Some people say it's only 30,000 feet. people have to get out of their head that downtown is the library headquarters. It's not going to be anymore. This is going to be a branch office for the neighborhood of downtown. And for that, it is going to be more than adequate. Plus, it's also going to allow us to renovate a 110-year building in a cool part of downtown just west of the old market. That's a win. Moving the distribution and circulation and, of course, administrative office functions out of downtown means that you don't need as many vehicles and trucks going in to move books around. It makes more sense to have that at a more spacious area like 84th and Frederick.
And the occupancy cost is probably a fourth of Dodge Street or downtown.
Meanwhile, you get, now I'm going to show my personal bias here, and I apologize because there are probably some people out there who love brutalist architecture from the 70s. But meanwhile, you get rid of what I think is one of the ugliest buildings in downtown. Now, and some people say, but it's a great example of brutalist architecture. I read somewhere where it's only a mediocre example of brutalist architecture.
I'm a brutalist.
Well, you're not brutal. You're very kind and loving to people. If you were an architect, you wouldn't even ever design a brutalist building.
Yes. At the time, was it called a brutalist?
Yeah, that's the architectural style.
Really?
I mean, you know what? I've heard some architects say this, and I think it's kind of true. If you look at some of those buildings that were built in the late 70s and the early 80s, there was a lot of concern about the Cold War, that we had fallen behind the Soviet Union. People worried about nuclear war. And if you look, a lot of those buildings were very stout, thick, brick concrete, limited windows. And the result was you built libraries and schools in that era that kind of looked like prisons.
I thought maybe that the contractor just owned a cement company or something.
If they did, that was a big deal for me. Anyway, very, very exciting stuff with those library leases. Kudos to the city council and all of the people,
the mayor's office with their leadership.
Who made that happen. There have been so many people from the library board to economic development officials who've worked their tails off coming up with that solution and making it go on a pretty rapid basis.
And one thing I'll say, and you were very involved, what's it been, 20 years? When you worked on the campaign to build the Quest Center.
Oh, yeah. That was like, what, 99, 2000 when I worked on that?
The Convention Center and Arena, and there are a lot of naysayers out there. It's a waste of money, it's a boondoggle, all this kind of stuff. And it's been profitable, and it's really transformed downtown. And we'd be hurting. We'd probably still be having chamber lunches at the Holiday Inn Central.
Which is gone now.
Right.
Trenton, you remember all of those events in our lifetime that you and I have been to in that old Holiday Inn Central?
All that rubber chicken.
And rice pilaf.
Buy the Big O shows. And
all the meetings. I can't count the number of times I've spoken there. I mean, as kids, we went to functions. In those days, that other than that Mancuso Hall at the Civic, that was Omaha's convention center in those days.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about another cool announcement that came out. This one was a press release from Google. And basically, Google announced that its investment in Council Bluffs has now exceeded a total of, are you ready for this? $5 billion.
Wow. They have about 1,000 acres. And does that include the original two buildings probably?
Yeah, it does. It includes the original two buildings along Veterans Highway, or what used to be called South Omaha Bridge Road, Highway 275.
Yep.
And then the 1,000-acre campus that is just south of Council Bluffs city limits, just north of the Mills County line. And altogether, $5 billion from one Fortune 10 company.
And now they've invaded Northwest Omaha.
Yeah, that doesn't count the project they're doing at Highway 133 and State Street. It doesn't count the project they're doing at Sarpy County.
What's the price on that one? Do you remember that one on 133?
No, it's not been announced.
Yeah, it was big.
Yeah, I don't because it's never been announced publicly that it's Google. I don't believe.
A couple million square feet.
Yeah, and then of course about 250, 300 acre campus they have at Schramm Road and Nebraska Highway 50 in Sarpy County. So that's pretty impressive stuff. 900 jobs, by the way, that Google has created in the Council Bluffs area. It doesn't even count the Omaha side.
Which is a lot of jobs for data centers.
Yeah, data centers don't need a lot of jobs. It's mostly just rows and you and I once had the privilege of touring the Facebook building, and We can't talk about it too much because of the NDA we signed, but I think we can say that there were a hell of a lot of computers in there.
Yes, there were.
And it was a pretty impressive thing to see. So let's talk a little bit about Heartwood Preserve. Some really cool news came out from the developer real estate company representing part of Heartwood Preserve. First of all, let's talk about Capital Cigar Lounge. This is an upscale membership-based business out of Lincoln called Capital Cigar Lounge. It's private membership. They plan to open an Omaha club in a to-be-constructed building in Heartwood Preserve. The part of Heartwood Preserve would be just east of the new Valmont World headquarters and just south of the Carson Group headquarters and the BMW dealership right there. This would be upscale all the way, 16,000 square foot building. The cigar lounge would occupy the upstairs, 8,000. There would also be an outdoor roof patio. And then the developer / real estate company is working with Capital Cigar Lounge, to find a prime steakhouse that would possibly occupy the ground floor, opening in 2023. But Trenton, this is the type of project that people envisioned when they started talking about Heartwood Preserve, given the nice area and the demographics around there.
Smoke them if you got them.
And with that, we'll also say at Heartwood Preserve, there is another big announcement. Gunderson Jewelers, which is a very nice chain of jewelry stores out of Sioux City, Iowa. They have a location in Village Point. They're going to move that location to Heartwood Preserve as well, another freestanding building.
They're new more development there.
What's that?
Gunderson's like real estate, and they're gonna develop more than just their building.
Oh, okay, yeah, because it would be and there would be a 15,000 foot ground level building, 5,000 feet upstairs. But the cool thing about that building is when it opens, that new Gunderson store at Heartwood Preserve will have the largest Rolex showroom in the United States.
Wow.
And right there in Heartwood Preserve.
So you can go from there to the Bentley dealership.
You have to go back to Village Point for that.
Yeah.
But you could go across the street to the BMW dealership and Land Rover, Range Rover.
Yep, Mini.
They have all that. It's called Onyx. So very cool stuff there. And let's end the news of the week with a feel-good story, something that we can all be proud of, because what makes you feel better than looking at cute photographs and videos of baby elephants? Baby elephants are pretty darn cute.
Videos of baby elephants.
The Omaha Henry Dorley Zoo and Aquarium just celebrated the second baby elephant to be born at the zoo in about a month's time. The first one was a female named Eugenia. The one that was born last week is a male, right, named Sunny. So there's now a total of 8 elephants at our zoo. And according to a World Herald article that came out yesterday, those 2 baby elephants will probably be the only 2 elephants born in the United States of America this year. In fact, there are only an average of 2 elephants born in America in any given year. So this is really, really cool.
They must be playing some serious mood music. What is that, 22 months? 20?
It's quite a long gestation period. Yeah. That gestation period is longer than our digestion
They must
periods.
have Spotify over there or something. They're playing some easy listening.
Well, in all seriousness, I think they've worked very hard at it. I mean, they've really designed their system to be very focused on breeding new elephants. And that's why they built the building the way they built it. In fact, it's my understanding, if I remember correctly, I think they can handle up to 12 or 15 elephants in the complex. So you'll probably see it. Anyway, when they start showing them to the public, I imagine it'll be awfully hard to get in there.
I bet you that bull elephant was using patchouli or some other nice scent.
And with that, we are concluding your news of the week, brought to you by Eagle Mortgage, eaglemortgagecompany.com. When we come back, we're going to bring on Stephen Osberg from the Greater Omaha Chamber. He focuses on transportation development, transportation issues, and we're going to talk about streetcars and related topics, what all of this streetcar stuff will mean for the future of transportation in our great city. Going to be a fun conversation. Don't miss it. You're listening to Jeff and Trenton on Grow Omaha, brought to you by NAI, NP Dodge, Commercial Real Estate, and D&M Roofing. Back in a moment on News Radio 1110 KFAB. And we're back. Grow Omaha on the air, brought to you by NAI, NP Dodge, and our good friends at D&M Roofing. Eric Obrim and his team do such a great job with both residential and commercial roofs. They even have this one-of-a-kind, very effective preventative maintenance program, particularly for commercial buildings. Check them out. D&Mroofing.com. Jeff Beals and Trenton Magid here. And we are going to now talk about transportation. A city cannot be great unless its transportation is advanced and very, very conducive to getting lots of people around the city as efficiently as possible. And we're going to talk with Stephen Osberg from the Greater Omaha Chamber. He's with us. He's the Director of Transportation and Urban Development at the Chamber and played a big role in getting us to where we are at this point with the new streetcar system and other transportation things. Stephen, welcome.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, good to have you back on the show. And we've talked to you in the past about Orbit, and now that's been successfully launched and hopefully to be expanded soon. But today we're gonna talk a lot about streetcars. We brought it up last week following the big announcement. We talked about the route along Farnham Street from 10th out to the Med Center. But one of the things I'd like to start with today, Stephen, since you've been involved with this since the beginning in the ground level, what are some of the things that went on behind the scenes to get us to where we are now?
Sure. Well, we all know the streetcar project's been around for over a decade. It's nothing new. The Chamber's involvement really ramped up after in 2017, we engaged all our members, the business community, to develop a new vision for the region. Try to imagine what it takes to have a strong economy in 2040. That led to the Greater Omaha 2040 vision. A big part of that leaned on transportation. How do we make a quality place? How do we really drive development to the core, knowing that that was a necessary part of the range of offerings we need to offer companies looking to locate? And so coming out of that, the Chamber launched a transportation initiative called Connect Go, ultimately in 2019. We really ramped that up. Over a couple years, we talked to over 8,000 people, got input on the transportation priorities for the region. And then this last summer, we released our top 10 priorities. We look at Orbit expansion. We got the first line, as you mentioned, that's already running. That just passed 500,000 riders since it opened. Looking at improved bus service, improved traffic signals, a whole range of options across all modes of transportation. But included in that is this urban core mobility system. And the backbone of that really becomes the streetcar paired with the parking garages and biking and walking access to that. We laid out that vision as part of the broader Connect Go transportation strategy, but we knew that wasn't enough to kind of get us over the finish line to get this thing built. And so the Chamber's Urban Core Committee kind of took the reins from then, commissioned HDR to do a deep dive into the financials. And we kind of came up with a financing plan based on some of the work that had been done in the past with the city and Metro Transit, another round that had happened with Modern Streetcar Advocates and Omaha by Design. We took all that work, updated it with the latest knowledge that we've got based on the financial impacts that we could anticipate from a project like this, put together a financing package, presented it to the city, and here we are. Huge announcements just in the last couple weeks here.
How unique is it that the streetcar is going to be free for ridership?
It's pretty mixed the way that folks use free fares around the country. We've tried to model our streetcar project primarily on the Kansas City project that they've had. It's a 2.2 mile route down there. It's widely regarded as probably the most successful streetcar project. Key to that project's success has been that free fare model. The idea is, let's just make it easy for people to use the system, get on, get off. You don't have to worry about waiting in line to pay or figuring out how much it costs or anything like that. It truly becomes a natural walk extender when you don't have to think about it. You just get on and get where you need to go.
The fact that it's taken so long, I mean, Hal Dobbs talked about it. Everyone's talked about this thing for 20 years. The technology of these streetcars, we benefit from having the latest technology when this thing is up and running. 2026?
2026 is the target, yeah.
Okay.
No, we totally benefit from everyone. I mean, that's what's great about being here. We can just see what everyone else is doing, take
what didn't work, what works.
What didn't work, avoid their pitfalls. Yeah, we're trying to follow the best models we can from across the country and really across the world.
Some people might say, hey, gosh, I wish we would have done this back in 1990. and you say one of the benefits is we got to see what other people did. But I was thinking, compared to other metro areas of only 1 million people, there are not a lot of them that have done it. I mean, I know Kansas City has that, what you said, regarded as one of, if not the most successful system ever. There's over 2 million people there. I don't think there are a lot of cities our size that have made a ton of progress with this so far.
I mean, the thing to look at when you're looking at a streetcar line is probably less the size of the whole metro area and more the size of what you're working with in the urban core. And on that front, I mean, we really compete with all the bigger cities. I mean, we've got the Med Center here, which is huge, Mutual of Omaha, all the other corporate offices downtown, the riverfront. There's just a tremendous amount of development activity that we're seeing there, and we compete with anyone on that front.
Well, and we are somewhat unique in that we have 3 nodes right along that Farnham Street corridor that we're targeting that already have a great amount of activity, one being downtown, one being Midtown Crossing, Blackstone, and the other one being the Med Center. A lot of places don't have that kind of density on one line unless you're a much bigger city.
Yeah, looking around the country, we talk to experts who have done this all over the place. And one of those is Charlie Hales. He used to be the mayor of Portland. Before that, he kind of led the streetcar initiative up there as a member of the city government. But now he works for HDR. And he said that of all the lines that he's seen, this is probably the most primed for a streetcar project like this. It's really set to take off the development potential.
One little logistical question that I had before we go to the break. We keep hearing 13 stops on the line from just south of the CHI Health Center Omaha down to Farnham Street and out. But when I looked at the route map that the mayor's office sent out a week or two ago, to me it looks like that it would run concurrently on Farnham and Harney, following the one-ways. And there would be stops on all of those. So kind of in a way, almost more than 13 stops, really, if you count the ones that would be in Harney and Farnham. Is that correct?
You know, the details of that map are kind of pulled from some earlier studies that were done on the streetcar line. This next phase that we've got to get into includes all the engineering, and that means finalizing exactly where the stations are, which we definitely need to be talking to more people along the streetcar route to understand exactly where those need to be placed so we're not impacting businesses and things like that. And the other is the exact alignment. You know, one option for sure is to split it across, keep it in Blackstone along Farnham Street, both directions. But at some point, we could certainly split it between Harney and Farnham to align with the one-way streets. That helps when you're thinking about the vehicles moving with traffic through the traffic signals and all of that. But the exact details of that are kind of TBD at this point.
Okay. And we'll talk a little bit more about timeline and a couple other things when we come back, but we have to do our middle of the show break for the news. When we come back, more with Stephen Osberg. He is Director of Transportation and Urban Development at the Greater Omaha Chamber. Plenty more. Don't miss any of it. You're listening to Jeff and Trenton on Grow Omaha, brought to you by D&M Roofing and NAI NP Dodge. Back in a moment on News Radio 1110 KFAB. And Grow Omaha is back. News Radio 1110 KFAB. We're brought to you by D&M Roofing and NAI NP Dodge. We want to give you the commercial real estate development spotlight, brought to you by Noddle Companies. Trenton, that car dealership on Steel Ridge, the future H&H Chevrolet dealership, and also some related facilities that H&H is building out there are coming along like gangbusters. When
Absolutely.
When you drive by an Interstate 80, they really stick up there. When those are done, that will have quite the presence there on the freeway.
Yeah, congratulations to Steve Hinchcliffe and his family and the whole H&H family.
Yeah, and Steel Ridge, of course, is a major development on the northeast corner of the Interstate 80 and Nebraska Highway 370 interchange. You already have a couple other car dealerships there. There's talk about a big retailer going there and maybe some other quasi-retail, quasi-industrial uses. Great development. It even extends onto the south side, that area where 88 Tactical is expanding. That really
they got
close.
Some big deals teed up over there. We don't know exactly what they are, but 20, 30 acres.
Yeah, and then right next to it on the south side, FedEx major distribution centers getting close to completion. Of course, Google and Amazon are both in that area. So exciting stuff. And this segment is brought to you by Noddle Companies. We have tremendous respect for them. Jay Noddle and the team over there are doing developments in multiple states, including a handful here in Omaha, like Steel Ridge, not to mention Urban Village, Nebraska Medical Center, Village Point Medical Campus, River's Edge and Council Bluffs, and others.
And now they're overseeing the library project.
Yeah, just got a contract from the city to coordinate the move of the W.Dale Clark Library into 2 other facilities. So find them online at noddlecompanies.com. We've got Stephen Osberg with us. He's Director of Transportation and Urban Development at the Chamber. We're talking about this new streetcar line. And Stephen, we know 2026 is the targeted opening date, but could you tell us a little bit about what are we expecting for timeline from approvals to when construction will start to the hoped for opening in 26?
Sure, yeah. So the way that we've got it segmented out right now, the next phase immediately would be engineering and final design, which essentially is where we figure out exactly where the stations go, exactly where the route is going to be, how it operates, all those details, how the electricity flows, where the maintenance yard goes, all of that. That's a 2-year process to get from basically where we are now to engineering done. And then it's another 2-year construction cycle. So it'll be 2 years of construction. That doesn't mean the whole corridor is under construction that whole time, but 2 years overall. And then that should put us at 2026 for beginning of operations.
And so construction would involve stations, because I presume the stations would look somewhat similar to the orbit stations in that they would be platform to platform match with the cars.
Well, actually, yeah, platform to platform match with the cars, but probably a little less robust than the orbit stations. A lot of the times what you see with streetcars, you can look at Portland, for example, or Kansas City, the stations are a little smaller than that more large-scale, robust kind of regional transit service that you have with the orbit. So you might have a bench, you might have a small shelter.
Keep people out of the rain.
Yeah, exactly. But probably less of the huge custom large station.
How disruptive?
There'll be more of them.
More of them. How disruptive do you anticipate construction would be to the businesses already on that corridor? Because some people will say, oh, geez, we got to put up with 2 years of construction. But in addition to the stations, you're putting rail and concrete, which is not like rebuilding the whole street per se.
For the most part, the construction would just involve kind of trenching out a little section of the road and putting some tracks in. Of course, we have to. The utilities would need to move out of the way a bit. There are some segments, though, like Blackstone in particular, where you have 2-way travel on the same street. The Blackstone BID wants to see some streetscape improvements in there, so sidewalk improvements, lighting, and things like that. That could be a little bit more extensive. A lot of the details of construction will get worked out in the next few months in this engineering phase, and it's going to take a lot of conversations with those business owners. I mean, the last thing we want to do is impact anyone or drive any businesses away.
Stephen, you were saying earlier that Kansas City is a really successful one, and you mentioned to us during the break that one of the ways you really judge whether streetcars are successful or not is economic impact. And we keep hearing that in a lot of cities within a 3-block radius on either side of the track, you see a remarkable increase in construction and development. Talk to us a little bit about what you anticipate happening in that regard along that Farnham corridor.
The whole purpose of building a streetcar in a lot of ways is multifold, right? So there's the transportation element, of course, and if we're not charging fares, I mean, that becomes an affordable form of transportation, but the route's only so long, right? So that's not the main component here. What it really is about in building a streetcar is reshaping the form of urban development. And it does that in a few different ways. One of those ways is folks who live and work within the corridor now have an easy way to get around. It becomes really a nice, attractive environment. It kind of supports more residential and job development. But another way is really evidenced by what we see even in Mutual's announcement, what they described. We can more efficiently use the parking that we have in the corridor, which means you don't have to build as much on-site parking, And when you're in a structured garage, I mean, the per stall price is getting up there around $40,000. And so if you're having to build 1,000 of those on site or even a few hundred, I mean, that's millions of dollars you're talking about. If you don't have to do that, you can kind of make better use of shared parking on the corridor. That lowers the cost of individual project development, and it also means less space devoted to parking and all of that, which means a more pleasant environment for people walking around, and you kind of get this virtuous cycle of, hey, this is a nice place, we'll see more and more development. So looking around the country, what we've seen, like you mentioned, about a quarter mile or about 3 blocks off the stations, you see tremendous growth. But you also, and valuation increase, but you also even see that out to a half mile away in some instances. It's interesting, though, that supports the tax base. We bring in greater tax revenue through valuation increases. We see all the spinoff improvements from development. But the other is in reshaping the shape of development in Omaha in particular. Right now, we see so much job growth in the western part of the metro area, the southwestern part of the metro area. The areas where we have the highest rates of unemployment and underemployment are in eastern Omaha. And it's just hard to get people from eastern Omaha to those spots so far away, whether it's through transit or driving or whatever. It's a long trip. The more we can do to kind of encourage the growth right in the core, the better access folks all across eastern Omaha will have to those jobs or those educational opportunities or whatever.
Well, what I think was neat when James Blackledge, the CEO of Mutual Omaha, he said that a lot of their employees live around Midtown Crossing and live in that area. They'll just be able to hop on it and go to the new tower, and those are the kind of things that will really benefit.
One of the things that we heard over and over when we did our Connect Go outreach, overwhelmingly people want walkable neighborhoods. One of the outreach pieces that we did was just a randomized telephone poll of a lot of people in the region, right? Looking at Douglas, Sarpy, and Potawatomi counties and all of that. And 80% across the board, across all demographics, across all politics, said that they wanted to live in a walkable neighborhood where they didn't have to get in the car to meet all of their needs. What the streetcar really enables is a very large walkable neighborhood. It's a walkable district tied together with the streetcar.
Well, this is a momentous opportunity for our city, one that will probably accelerate a lot of our progress. Stephen, Trenton and I appreciate the hard work that you and your colleagues have put into this, all of the cooperation that you guys have given to other partners like the city and businesses and developers and the philanthropic community. So thanks for all that. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking about this a lot over the next 4 years as we go from now to when the streetcar opens in 26.
Thanks for having me. Great to see you guys.
Stephen Osberg, Head of Transportation and Urban Development at the Greater Omaha Chamber. When we come back, it's time for the lightning round. One of the things we're going to talk about is a big major retailer coming to the state. First location will be in Omaha and other things. You're listening to Jeff and Trenton, brought to you by D&M Roofing and NAI NP Dodge on News Radio 1110 KFAB. It's the Turner Construction Lightning Round, the moment that you've all been waiting for, in which we go through a lot of topics in just a short period of time. And goodness gracious, we thank Turner Construction for making this possible for you. By the way, big time construction firm that does projects as big as the Sarpy County Data Center at Highway 50 and Capehart Road, and as small as your interior build-out project for your business as you start to expand. And Turner Construction is working so hard to develop tradespeople to power Omaha's construction growth. We don't have enough construction workers in this town with all of the booming progress and massive projects we have under the way. So Turner is working with Metro Community College and many other stakeholders in the area to try and get young people to go into the trades so we can build these things. So we thank Turner Construction for that, and we thank them for giving us all of this cool news that we're about ready to do. Turner Construction, sponsor of the Lightning Round. All right, Trenton, I'm going to let you announce the first one. Big-time retailer out of Wisconsin. We said they were coming to Omaha a year ago. Then we said they're not. Now they're back.
Yeah, Fleet Farm, which is a lot of venture capital in that business. Fleet Farm has purchased 20 acres of land up on 183rd and West Maple Road on the south side. It's part of the Antler View development, And I think, aren't their stores about 140,000 feet? They're big stores.
You can definitely call them a superstore.
And usually they have a gas station component to them. And it's kind of like you cross a Menards, a Tractor Supply, and some other stuff.
In fact, if I look up what we wrote in the newsletter, when in describing Fleet Farm, it says the company sells hunting and fishing equipment, small appliances, automotive goods, clothing, footwear, toys, food, hardware, lawn garden supplies, sporting goods, tools, and farm supplies.
Yeah, so it's all that under one roof, and there's talk about them going way southwest along Highway 370 as well. So. And there was one for Council Bluffs that I don't know if it's back in play or not, but they scrapped it on South 24th Street. But they're committed to coming to Omaha now. We don't know the timeline on West Maple. That's what we're trying to find out.
Okay, but like Trenton said, they bought land, 183rd
Closing
Maple. They have 47 stores in Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, North Dakota, and South Dakota. So they're a north central. They're spreading to the southwest by coming to Omaha. They just opened a store last year on the west side of Des Moines that you drive by if you're going to Des Moines, Iowa. It's a big, nice store. I saw one a couple years ago in Rapid City, South Dakota. Like you said, they're superstores, really cool.
Yeah, and what's interesting is I remember a few years ago I talked to one of the owners of Baumgars who were in smaller towns.
Baumgars.
Kind of a similar style but smaller. And they kind of stay on the periphery in the smaller towns, and they didn't want to come to Omaha.
Whenever I've been up in Minnesota or the Dakotas where there are a lot of those with the accent, they'll be like, we're going to Baumgars.
Yeah.
I'm going to go some shopping at Baumgars. All right. Sorry, Minnesotans. Didn't mean to offend you with that. The old J. Coco building in Midtown on Leavenworth is going to be Elmwood Pharmacy.
That was interesting. The pharmacist behind there bought the building.
Yeah.
And it's bittersweet.
I did not see that coming because, because they also got rid of that Legend Comics, which I think also had a coffee bar there.
Yep.
And then J. Coco was one of the best restaurants in the city, man. And I did not see those going for a pharmacy, but you just never know who's going to buy a building.
Drugs is a problem in Omaha, too.
Starbucks executives. This is our national real estate news from CoStar. CoStar always gives us national perspective that we can report to you. Starbucks executives, while anticipating some store closings and relocations this year, nevertheless expect to open about 500 additional retail outlets in the United States.
That's it?
That's quite a bit, though. And one of them just opened at 8601 Dodge about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago.
Could you imagine the head of the real estate committee with, what do they have, 30, 40,000 Starbucks now?
People that work in the real estate department?
They'd be like, just going down the line. No. Yes.
No,
No. Yes.
You do not get a Starbucks, but you do.
Yeah.
I tell you what.
They should rename it $6.
If you... Is that all it is?
No, it's probably $8.
That is great. I don't know if I should say this or not, but
do it.
All right, what the hell? Mike Murley, who has worked in our office, he's still associated with it, but he's semi-retired now. He, for years, represented Starbucks. And Mike always said it was so fun because people would roll out the red carpet for him because he represented Starbucks and everyone wanted Starbucks in their development. So the music's playing. We're out of here. Hope everyone has a great weekend. I'm Jeff Beals.
And I'm Trenton Magid.
You've been listening to Grow Omaha, brought to you by Turner Construction, D&M Roofing, and NAI NP Dodge. We'll chat with you again next week at 9 o'clock right here on News Radio 1110 KFAB. If you like this video, be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. And remember, Grow Omaha is not just media. This is a mission. We are trying to build up Omaha and make it an even better place. We can only do that with your help. Share this video with your friends, neighbors, and family.